Hello, everyone, and welcome to Easy Money, brought to you by Inside the Pylon. I am your host, Nicholas Falato, and we are live here on Fantom, Facebook's only live sports network. As you can hear in the background, that is the Wayne Train. My colleague Andrew Jordan could not make it tonight, so we're going to go over some daily fantasy sports, particularly football. Even though basketball is in full swing, so is hockey. It's an incredibly exciting time of the year for daily fantasy sports. I'm very excited. You're very excited. Firstly, must address the beard. I'm getting a lot of feedback on the beard. The reason I have a beard is because there are certain things that are just synonymous with the fall. Candy corn, pumpkins, trick-or-treating, Halloween, and beards. And, of course, flannel. So that's why I have this temporary beard going on. I'm digging it. I don't know if you are, but we're going to talk some daily fantasy. We're not here to talk about my facial hair. Let's start. You can see my cash game lineup on your screen over there in the white. The worst thing in the world. You also got Doug Martin at $4,700 against the Jets. Oh my gosh, I don't know how you have 8 attempts for 7 yards. Absolutely gross. No one's going to roster him, and you could bank that. You'll get him at a low ownership, and maybe the team will try to have faith in him again, but it's just one of those gross things that I might not really want to deal with. So, players that are going to carry, I think, a higher ownership in cash games, priced at around that $4,000 range. I think Orleans Darkwa. Everyone sees that 32nd opponent rank. They know San Francisco has struggled against the run, and I don't think it's a terrible play. He's at $4,500, so he will give you savings. He saw 16 carries in a blowout loss last week. The Giants could actually have a lead here, and I think they're going to rely a lot on Darkwa. I think they'll sprinkle in Wayne Gallman, and I think Paul Perkins is essentially done, and Shane Vereen will come in on third down for whatever reason. I don't know why the Giants are still using Shane Vereen, but they do. I think Darkwa at 45 and I think Matt Forte at 44 are both in very good spots, and they both kind of are cash game viable. Now, it's a little risky, but I don't think it's a terrible idea, especially in a slate where it's hard to find savings. I think Hyde and Howard both provide you great savings. But if you want to try to get Antonio, if you want to try to get Le'Veon, you got to start looking at these running backs that are priced down this low. And Darkwa and Forte are two running backs that I feel like are priced very well. And I talked about Bilal Powell. I said Bilal Powell is another running back that is priced low, $4,000. And he looked really good in his opportunities, broke off a couple long runs against the Bills. But again, he only played 22% of the snaps. I'm hoping that's going to go up, and I'm hoping they'll use him more in the passing game.
Smaller players, they were in sub 5'9", those kind of gritty players that we referred to. And Ito Smith is also one of those individuals when it comes to just being one of those players who get the ball, excellent lateral agility, and excellent ability to accelerate, burst, hit the hole, and go. And he showed his receiving skills as well.
Yes, indeed.
But on to the big guys. Now, this doesn't really pertain to fantasy as much unless you play in IDP leagues, because a lot of these guys, sacks are pretty important in IDP leagues, you know what I'm saying? So, you know who really impressed me? And I've watched probably about 10 games on him. He's not overly athletic. He's not incredibly flexible. But he's really impressed me this week, and it kind of reassured me. I think I had a third-round grade on him, and that is Tyquan Lewis out of Ohio State. He has really shown that he can maximize his potential with his lack of athleticism and his lack of flexibility to bend the edge with his craftiness that he uses his hands. He really attacks the half man of an offensive lineman, gets upfield, gets him off balance, and then will go right back inside to shed him with powerful, violent hands. And that is the kind of stuff that I'm looking for from an individual like Tyquan Lewis. And he really showed up well today in practice. I know he went up against the Army kid, Brett Toth, a couple times, and Brett Toth is new to pass sets and things of that nature because he comes from the triple option offense in Army, and Tyquan has played a lot of football for Ohio State. So you know that level of competition and how competitive it is to break the field. He's always out there. So Tyquan won a lot of those reps. I thought he had a fantastic day.
Tyler comes in with a question. He needs a tight end. Now he has Travis Kelce. Been riding that Travis Kelce train all season. Very happy about that, but this is week 17 now. Travis Kelce more than likely not going to play the majority of snaps. So he needs somebody to fill in for him. Is it going to be Cam Brate, Vernon Davis, or #revenge game Charles Clay in a standard league? I think my answer is Charles Clay.
Yes.
That is Tyrod Taylor's favorite target. This is against Miami. Miami cannot cover tight ends. I mean, if you want to buy into the narrative of #revenge game, there is also that, but I still think he is the best play no matter what kind of game it is, and it's going to be good weather because it's down in Miami, so you don't have to worry about the cold. I think he's a name now, to be honest. You have Marvin Jones. See, I think Marvin Jones could have a monster game. It's just they have to play him all the snaps like he usually does. I don't want them to sit him. And again, this might be Jim Caldwell's last game, so I expect him to ball out. But I think Marvin Jones is in for a really big game. Now, Funchess is somebody that has let me down the last 3 weeks, but do we want to bench him in this really important game when defenses might be a little bit more aware of Greg Olsen? It's just one of those things. He's just one of those guys that you just don't really have the cojones to bench, but you kind of want him because he's let you down big time.
Yeah, and looking at it now, knowing, look, Doxson's on his bench, so is Derrick Henry. I would probably get Derrick Henry in over
P-Ryan, yes.
P-Ryan.
Yes, I would too, and I would try to play Doxson, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Who sits in place of Doxson here?
I think Funchess would, to be honest. Let me check Funchess' snap percentage, to be honest, man. But he just hasn't been getting it done, and you're kind of banking on, well, hopefully it will happen. But we haven't seen it happen, and that's the issue. We haven't seen it happen in weeks. We haven't seen it happen since Greg Olsen's come back. And again, he is the third read. Does that mean he can't catch a touchdown? Of course he can. That's what his upside is. He has that big touchdown upside, but it's just one of those things, man, that I just do not like. And Doxson, we talked about it on the DFS show. He had a murderous row of cornerbacks, and now he faces the Giants, who have no cornerbacks. So I just think Josh Doxson, Jameson Crowder are in for big games.
Yeah. Let's get started off with my favorite short player in the 2017 NFL Draft, and that is Tariq Cohen out of North Carolina A&T. Now you're like, North Carolina A&T, where's that? Well, the guy's 5'6", 179 pounds, so you know he wasn't getting scholarships to go to really good schools. He ran a 4.42 at the combine, and he had absolutely ridiculous production, over 5,000 yards in his 4 years at North Carolina A&T, and he had 56 total touchdowns. Now you're like, oh, well, Nick, he plays in small-level competition. So, okay, this guy, his nickname is the Human Joystick. Kind of reminds you of another short guy, Dante Hall. Anybody remember Dante Hall? Growing up in the early 2000s, one of the most dynamic kick returners for the Chiefs of his time. He was also 5'8", so you can hashtag short guy brand him at the same time. Well, Tariq Cohen has a combination of elusiveness, balance, agility, and vision. He had very, very nimble footwork, exceptional change of direction, and a low center of gravity. He fights for extra yards, very, very fluid, and provides position versatility, lining up in the shotgun, taking handoffs from there, running routes from there, running routes out of the slot, and he's a dynamic playmaker on special teams and as a kick returner. When you turn this kid's tape on, you can see it. Go to draftbreakdown.com. There's 2 games, I think, on there. One's against Toledo. He has that it factor. I think he can be a draft pick in the 4th or 5th round and be the next kind of Darren Sproles. I really don't think that's out of the question for Tariq Cohen coming out of North Carolina A&T. Hello, everyone. I'm Nicholas Falato of Inside the Pylon, and I'm here to briefly talk about how wild Week 9 of the NFL season was. And I think it actually started on Saturday night during UFC 217, live from MSG. It was the first time in history that all 3 champions lost their belts. We saw GSP beat Bisping, Dillashaw beat Garbrandt, and then we saw Joanna Jędrzejczyk lose to Rose Namajunas. Yes, I think that pronunciation was correct. But the NFL saw an opportunity here. They said, we have Monday, we have Thursday, we're soon going to have some Saturday games. We play in London, we play in Mexico City. UFC, hold my beer. We can capitalize on this fighting as well. And AJ Green did just that. I'm not sure if he's going to get suspended, got kicked out of his game when he rear naked choked Jalen Ramsey to the ground. Ramsey just got under his skin. He's a second-year player, a very talented second-year player at that. And AJ Green has been this calm, cool, level-headed receiver his entire career. But he went full Andre Johnson / Cortland Finnegan on Jalen Ramsey when Jalen gave him a little push. And I guess that just doesn't abide by the etiquette of the NFL. The second-year players shouldn't be doing that to vets. We saw Steve Smith really call out Jalen Ramsey last year when Ramsey was a rookie. But I gotta say, Jalen Ramsey should not have been suspended or kicked out of that game, I should say. But I love Jalen Ramsey tenacity. I love the fact that he is not scared of anybody and he will get to the opposing receiver's head. He got AJ Green removed from the game after shutting him down in the first half of that game. So I want to applaud Jalen Ramsey. But that wasn't the only fight. There were 2 other bouts. This was literally like a carded fight where there were 3 bouts. We also saw Carlos Hyde go up against Frosty Rucker, which is probably not smart because Rucker is a very, very big man, and Hassan Reddick after Antoine Bethea laid a late hit on C.J. Beathard. Kyle Shanahan came out and said that he loved the fact that Carlos Hyde was out there defending his quarterback. So Hyde and those other two were kicked out of the game as well. And then we saw Mike Evans go after Marshawn Lattimore in one of the cheapest hits that you will ever see. Mike Evans has been suspended for a game, but he wasn't kicked out. In game, he wasn't kicked out, and he was probably the one who deserved to get kicked out the most, outside possibly A.J. Green. Mike Evans completely cheap shots Lattimore because Jameis Winston, who was knocked out of the game with a shoulder injury, goes over to Lattimore on the sidelines and gives him a little touch to the back of the head. So Lattimore just gives him the lightest little shove, turns his back, and Mike Evans just blindsides him. First off, I want to say, Jameis Winston, you are very, very immature. We really hope that he would progress and mature as he came out of Florida State, and it just seemed like yesterday he reverted back to being very immature, and we're not going to see him for a few games. We're not going to see Mike Evans for the next week because he is also suspended, and I think their bye is their bye was supposed to be week 11, actually, week 1. We all remember what happened there. And that kind of leads me to Jameis Winston's pregame hype. I thought that was one of the most ridiculous things. I mean, it just fits perfectly into week 9 and everything that happened during week 9. He's holding up a W and he's eating the W, and you could just tell by all of his teammates' reactions that was absolutely ridiculous. And now we're not going to see any Jameis Winston. You want him to mature, though. You don't want to see him going after opposing quarterbacks when he's already knocked out of the game because of a shoulder injury. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore could have done something a lot worse to Jameis, and Mike Evans treated him like he did, and now Mike Evans is suspended. But, yeah, 3 big fights that you don't usually see in the NFL on Sunday after UFC 217. I think the NFL is trying to adopt this business model that UFC has going because it is popular. Other than that, we saw a couple teams just kind of give up on their coaches, one being the New York Football Giants. And it's very, very sad. I am a Giants fan. Ben McAdoo was asked in the postgame how he rallied the troops at halftime when they were down 27-10, and he had absolutely no answer. He sat there with no personality, didn't say one word, and just waited for the next question to be asked. This team was coming off of a bye week. You have a Rams team, a very talented Rams team, who was also coming off a bye week to justify it, but still, traveling into bad weather, a team that usually doesn't play in bad weather, on the West Coast, a 1 o'clock start, on the East Coast, your team's coming off a bye, and your team just gives up. McAdoo seems to deal with the media about as well as he deals with his team and his players. You can tell it's an absolute mess there. And you got suspension after suspension being levied to these guys. But who is going to be the savior of this team? This team does have some building blocks. And this team has good players like Landon Collins that you can build around. The answer doesn't seem to lie in just another young coordinator. So the Giants are really in an uphill battle. We can see them possibly replace the general manager and the head coach, go into the future with this top 5 pick. And I hope it's just not an unceremonious end to Eli Manning's career, but it's looking like it might be an unceremonious end for Eli Manning and the New York Giants. And that's devastating to us Giant fans who grew up loving Eli Manning, but it is just not a good situation.
I mean,
That was a couple away and go, oh, not bad.
I don't really like what they have going on right now. I mean, I wouldn't say garbage. Garbage is relative, though. So what kind of garbage we're talking about? We're talking about, some garbage that has some food still left on it that you can eat and that can provide some sustenance, or is this just straight, saran wrap with old grease on it or something along those lines?
Wow, let me tell you.
It's analysis.